Yemo bibia kwa ba na yemfounder yem platform we eso. Lawyer Martin Kpebu a private legal practitioner. Kofi Bentil a Mani Ghana president. Sansona Felix Ofosu Kwaakye a government spokesperson. Sanso ye MP. Ana urawe. I think say don't fa na bibisa enso eka ho. Na ne nyina positive economic indicators. And na ye Ghana economy na ami say yehu some new improvement bi abam. And rather ya na Kopek ediba mountain so say omo ato petrol so due to dollar stabilization and what cedi appreciation. San komodidie we ena Felix Ofosu Kwaakye na lawyer Martin Kpebu ato omo boase a schoolie Kofi Bentil ewo san komo we eho yenko na yenko tie nkomo ni bi na yekoba edinaka ina ebeto aso ede ama mesro so do comment betum na wa like this particular video na wa share na foforo anyi bia hwe hanom number 1 authentic platform Ega TV yankopon shira yentie nkomo ni bi yekoba ebeto aso ede ama
this in transforming or translating to this reduced cost of living for us, right? Which is a major problem, I mean, most parts of the world now. Now, if you come to the inflation, so yes, when food reduces, food prices, etc., reduce, it will bring down inflation. That's those that are captured in the budget. But in the
basket, you mean?
Yes, in the I said budget basket, in the food basket, right? Yes. So, but we all know that as Ghanaians have consistently made it clear that we don't chop inflation. We don't chop inflation. The inflation we go chop. No, we want to see reduction in food prices. I've seen monitored on social media, and it's good, Mr. Kwaakye Ofosu is here. Young people are complaining a lot about rent. Yeah, so that you see the celebration. Yes, they appreciate that food prices have come down. I've met people who said for the first time they could buy rice to take to their hometown to distribute, etc. Right? But that the rent matter to government needs to do something because you know the unemployment rate is high, over 13%, right? And youth unemployment is even worse. So as we churn these young people out of school, and you know they also look to move on, and yet one of the key things in moving on is to find your own place to go live. And so where there isn't or where the rent is not affordable, so the key word being affordability, then it creates a lot of disquiet. Because you see, though we are still very excited that we sacked the NPP, etc., but a bit beneath the excitement, there's still a lot of tension about the, you know, cost of living, etc. You know, it comes down, but still, you know, human nature, I think we would want to see it further, you know, come down massively. So yes, this is celebrated, but young people are looking forward to further reductions. And so we wish to see how the government will tackle rent, because it's even in the constitution that we should do and provide better rent for our citizens, right? And we all know the housing deficit has been going for decades. We say 1.8 million, then we hear 2 million, etc. So what are we doing to ramp it up? We know how Saglame didn't end up well for us. And natural fact has become very costly. Has become very. Yes.
They have their headquarters there.
Can you imagine?
Human beings were supposed to live
also
there, but now snakes.
I thought they had
living in real estate.
We haven't sold them out to the citizens. You know, in the previous regime, the last days, upon Kroma, yes.
An arrangement, no.
Yes.
On the Saglemi.
Yes.
There was the announcement of some sort of private sector intervention in it, correct?
Yes, it was announced in the dying members of the previous administration, but it is under review.
It's under review.
Because we believe that it is not the best or most ideal situation. It was meant to be public housing, which is affordable for people within a certain income bracket.
I see.
But we had expected the NPP to continue. They left it to rot for 8 years. And then in the dying members of their administration, they tried to put together or cobble together some arrangements, as it were, to put it into private hands. But it's under review, and we'll come back to ensure that your initial objective is achieved. Yeah.
I want to stay with you unless you're done with your point.
No. So as usual, it's good. Let's not get tired of repeating. We keep reading the Bible, from infancy. As soon as you learn how to read, you read the Bible till you die. The same for the Quran. So every time this this matter comes up, it's customary for me to read Article 36, so that the more citizens get used to Article 36, I'm sure the more the advocacy can improve. So in terms of managing the economy, this is just one of them. At least this is more direct in terms of managing the economy for our better welfare. It says, the state shall take all necessary action to ensure that the national economy is managed in such a manner as to maximize the rate of economic development and to secure the maximum welfare, freedom, and happiness of every person in Ghana, and to provide adequate means of livelihood and sustainable employment and public assistance to the needy. Then, listen, sub-clause, yes, it talks about, yes, that's
the directive principles of
directive principles of state policy, and the Supreme Court has made it clear that these ones too are justiciable, meaning that you can sue in a court of law. Just like the way, if you are hungry, you can't get food, you are allowed to sue in the Supreme Court that there should be a declaration that the government has a duty to provide food for you, right? So it's in recognition of that President Kufuor brought this livelihood empowerment against. Yeah, it's not just freebie. No, in other parts of the world, especially in India, people went to court that the government has a duty to provide food. And the Supreme Court so held. And since then, there have been many parts of the world where that principle has been upheld. So when you see livelihood empowerment, it's not a freebie. It's because the government saw it long ago that, hey, there's a constitutional right to food, right? So the other principles are here. I think we have to move on. But just to go through that there should be a guarantee of a fair and realistic remuneration for production and productivity, in order to encourage continued production and higher productivity, affording ample opportunity for individual initiative and creativity in economic activities, and fostering an enabling environment for a pronounced role of the private sector in the economy.
Right.
Ensuring that individuals and the private sector bear their fair share of social and national responsibilities, including the responsibilities to contribute to the overall development of the country. Then D, undertaking even and balanced development of all regions and every part of each region of Ghana, and in particular, improving the conditions of life in the rural areas and generally redressing any imbalance in development between the rural and the urban areas, all right? Okay. And the recognition that the most secure democracy is the one that assures the basic necessities of life for each people as a fundamental duty. So
the security of our democracy is directly hinged on our ability to meet the basic needs.
Yes.
Including food, transport.
That's what
of the people.
And that's why we say in a cliche that unemployment is a national security threat. Unemployment, that is what we mean.
We see. Perfect. Council, appreciate you for this and putting it in the context of what the law says in our constitution. And this is why I bring in Felix Ofosu, because, in fact, let me start off from where Professor Bopin indicated that, yes, all of these factors and indicators look good, trending towards the right direction, which must be celebrated. But then again, the celebration must be in modesty. And the communication of it, which directly falls on your laps, must also take into consideration the fact that it will take a while for all of these to translate directly into the lives of people. So you must be measured in how you communicate this, so as not to be seen to be overly celebrating this when people are actually living the reality of not seeing how much of the celebration in their lives.
Alfred, that is precisely what we've been doing. There's a long-standing debate about the connection between the drop in inflation and other indices and its reflection in the realities of the people. Indeed, it is what Professor Bokri and his colleague economists refer to as the politician's error. That is the moment we hear that inflation has fallen, you demand that there should be a reduction. I had some education from Dr. Kwabena for when he was finance minister. When I posed such a question, he told me that there's often a time lag between the drop in some indices and then its reflection in the market. But Alfred, there's no dispute that one of the biggest, perhaps the biggest concern that Ghanaians had going into 2024 was the cost of living and the general economic hardship.
Sure.
And as a party, we were responsive to that in the programs that we proposed to them as basis for us to be elected. So they elected us. And since we came to power, we've done everything humanly possible to ensure that there is a reduction in the cost of living so that people have the opportunity to live meaningful lives and that the suffering and hardships they were subjected to in the last 8 years are abated. And that's precisely what has happened. After, there's no dispute about the importance of these indices because it shows you at a macro level what the overall picture of the economy is. So when you hear of inflation, it shows you the rate at which the price of goods and services are falling. When you hear of the debt, how much do you owe, which impacts your ability to have resources to do other things, to invest in infrastructure like Professor Bokpin and other panelists here have indicated. When you hear about your deficit, your primary balance, it gives you an indication of how prudent you are being in the management of your resources.
Sure.
Now, all those are important. There's the exchange rate, which is extremely important because of our present import dependency. Of course, the ideal situation is to be export-oriented. No, first of all, in our situation, we just need to be self-sufficient. And then we become export-oriented. That is being worked on through the 24-hour economy and other policies. But ultimately, because we are import-dependent, the currency is so important because then it translates into the prices of goods and services, which is at the heart of the cost of living crisis. That is why there was a sustained effort to ensure that we bring the exchange rate under control. Once that happened, it was always going to result in a reduction in the cost of living.
That's right.
And Alfred, I take your point about not exaggerating or arguing with the electorates.
That's right.
And insisting that things are good when they feel that things are not good. We are not about to do that. But where empirical evidence exists of some reduction in the cost of living, it is important that that is addressed, especially when the issue, especially when there are political actors who seek to deny the objective reality. One of the biggest contributors to the cost of living is the price of fuel, because apart from its use in vehicular movement, it also has a certain translatory effect on the price of goods and services, because one of the cost factors for fixing prices is transportation, the carting of goods and services from one point to the other. But before we came to power, at least in January of 2025, fuel sold around 15 cedis. Indeed, at a point in 2023, it was 23 cedis a gallon for diesel. And this brought on two hardships for people. As we speak, indeed, only yesterday, there was some price war between Goyal and Star Oil.
That's true.
They are selling fuel under 10 cedis a litre, which will translate, if you use the 4.5 liters that we use to calculate our gallon, to a little over 50 cedis a gallon, if I'm not mistaken. But before we came to power, a gallon of fuel was hovering close to 100 Ghana cedis. And this was creating severe hardships for the people. I've been checking, Alfred. As of the end of last year, there were 3.7 million cars registered with the DVLA. 3.7 million cars. What this means is that the reduction of fuel has at least ensured cost savings for 3.7 million cars. Out of these, just over 2 million are privately owned. And then 1.7 or so of them are commercial. Many of them involved in
ride-hailing.
What do you call it? Not ride-hailing, but commercial transportation for passengers and goods and what have you. That is a clear indication that millions of people have benefited directly from the reduction. And we all know, those of us who use Ford, I use the Ford drive in my campaign. Indeed, to fill that vehicle to campaign in AAK, I needed to pay close to 2,000 Ghana cedis. Today, the same vehicle will cost between 1,400 to 1,500 cedis to fill. That's a saving of 500 cedis, a significant amount. Something, pardon me, it is also a fact that the prices of basic goods and commodities have seen reductions. In fact, when the budget was read in 2024, you know, the moment the CD began to appreciate, people began to demand corresponding reductions in the price of goods and services. Sure. So the Trade Committee of Parliament summoned Guta and put it to them that there are complaints that you have failed to respond adequately to one of the key factors for your price, which is exchange rates. Guta was able to show that the price of up to 4,500 different items had dropped. In fact, it is contained in the report that the Trade Committee submitted to Parliament. And we also do market service. In fact, the Ghana Central Service they do their CPI. So they have a basket of goods that on a regular basis they compare in terms of prices. This list that I have here, from cement to fuel, to iron rods, to beans, to water, maize, rice, oil, sardine, tuna, yam, palm fruits, cow meat, goat meat, disinfectants, soap, charcoal, all those things have seen reductions in their prices. And these are things that we feel.
And this was the Ghana Central Service?
Yes, and simple market service. People watching me know the price of rice is not the same as it was before. The price of a cup of margarine, a cup of beans is not the same as it was. The price of oil is not the same as it was. Maize, it has come down. You understand me? So this is also being felt by the generality of the citizens. Of course, citizens are right to demand more reductions. And I would love it if prices fell by 90%, so that my disposable income remains and I'm able to save some more for the future. I would love it. And so people are right to demand more. But we cannot gloss over the fact that there have been tangible improvements in the cost of living because of the way that the economy has been managed. After, there's also the issue, and I'm glad that Prof is here. He understands it better than myself, perhaps, that there are people in society who engage in rent seeking. What they do is that they want supernormal profit. So they use an upsurge in some cost factors, say exchange rates or taxes, as justification to increase prices. When these factors drop, they become used to the price that they are receiving, and so are reluctant to reduce it. And they begin to cite all manner of untenable excuses. For instance, there have been claims.
You are talking economics now.
Yes. So of course, in a market economy, in a competitive environment, so normally it is competition that drives them. For instance, what Star Oil and Goil are doing. The moment Goil announced 9.99, they also announced 9.97. So people said that, at least there's a 2% saving that I'll make with Star Oil. So perhaps let me go there. I suspect that other OMCs will respond because they will be left behind if they don't respond, and their profit margins may take a hit. But there are people who engage in rent seeking. Let's take the issue of Kinky. There have been claims about Kinky prices going up. But first of all, it is difficult to measure some of those items because we don't have a uniform size. It's difficult to compare different sizes of Kinky, so you don't even know what size they are talking about. But let us assume that there's some uniform. Unlike a bag of rice, which is measurable and is the same everywhere, you can't do the same for Kinky. So, for instance, the price of maize has dropped. There was a time when it sold for 1,600 cedis a bag. Then it came to around 1,200 cedis a bag. Now it's around 800 cedis a bag. So if somebody bought a bag of maize to make Kinky out of, even if the person used charcoal to boil the Kinky, the price of a bag of charcoal has come down. If the person used gas, the price of gas has come down. So what justification would exist to increase the price of Kinky? And how can you fault government for that kind of rent-seeking behavior? Of course, in the past, you could fault government directly because the price of maize went up, the price of fuel went up, the price of gas went up, the price of even charcoal went up. So you could fault government on that score. Look at the transportation issue, for instance. Fuel has come down significantly. Indeed, any time that there was a time when transport owners used to arbitrarily increase transport fares. So under President Kufuor, there was this road transport coordinating committee that he set up, one of the most brilliant initiatives, which insisted that, look, pricing has to be fixed twice a year, unless there's some extraordinary circumstance which intervenes. So because of that, we began to have some order. So at the beginning of the year and then the middle of the year, prices were reviewed. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it comes down margin, depending on the factors. So the same situation has persisted. Now, what are the things that contribute to fixing of transport fares? Maybe the cost of the car that was purchased, the cost of spare parts, and then fuel. And then if there are some prevailing taxes, maybe there are some tariffs or tolls that they pay and taxes that they pay. Now, all these indicators have taken a nosedive in terms of their cost. They've come down. And I've been the reason why
the spare parts dealers say the spare
no,
parts
Alfred, it's not true.
Having gone down. That's why.
No, it's not. Indeed, the trade minister last week or the week before went round to engage them, and the fact that came out is that indeed prices are falling. And the reason why that has happened, I'm going to show you. You see, I have always insisted that this discussion must be based on fact and not conjecture. So I have actually asked those who are directly involved in the activities that results in the fixing of prices for data. So if you go to ports, if you go to customs, they are the ones who collect duty. So a typical transporter will tell you that he bought a vehicle at a certain cost, then brought it in. In the course of operating it, spare parts have gone up, fuel prices have gone up, so he's increased the fare, right? So what is the cost of a car now? After, if you bought a Toyota Corolla today, in April of last year, as for the home delivery value, it won't change because we don't control it. It's the manufacturer who controls it. So a Toyota Corolla had a home delivery value of $19,700 as of April 2025. That's last year. It hasn't changed because it is not a factor that we control. However, the duty for that was pegged at $7,700. I'm sure it's a percentage of the home delivery value. That's how duty is calculated.
For a Toyota Corolla.
For a Toyota Corolla, 2024 model.
Okay.
Yes. Now, because in April, the exchange rate was 15.4 Ghana cedis to the dollar. If you were going to clear that car, you would pay 119,000 Ghana cedis as duty. By December, because the exchange rate had plummeted to around 11 cedis, the same 2024 Toyota Corolla would cost you 85,000 cedis, which is a reduction of 33,700 cedis. And for now, the same for Land Cruiser and other, but those are high-end vehicles, so I won't use it because it's not the normal means of transport for many, many people in this country. Now, for instance, take an item like chicken. If you are not able to buy poultry from Ghana, and maybe you, because of your income level, you depend on frozen chicken, which is largely imported. Now, a container of 10 kilogram boxes of chicken, the home delivery value was $89,000. Again, that one you don't control, so there's nothing to say about it. At an exchange rate of 15.4 cedis in April last year, the total duty you would pay for one container was 985,000 Ghana cedis. Because the exchange rate fell to 11 cedis by December last year, now you would pay 707, which is a saving of 277,000 Ghana cedis. After what reason would anybody dealing in chicken, frozen chicken, have to increase the price if it is not rent seeking?
I see.
And then the final one I was going to tell you about, for instance, cement. It will not surprise you that the price of cement has fallen. Because what has happened? First of all, if you brought in a container of 60,000 metric tons, bulk clinker, which is a key ingredient in the manufacture of cement, it will cost you $3.14 million. Now, mind you, that even the amount of money you needed to buy the clinker itself would reduce because the exchange rate has reduced and it is indexed to the dollar. Then the duty too has reduced. The duty you would have paid for that amount of cement you were importing would be 16 million Ghana cedis in April last year. By December, it had fallen to 11.5 million. So there was a saving of 4.5 million Ghana cedis. What reason would a cement manufacturer have, for instance, for refusing to reduce the price or even increasing it?
No, so that's where the issue. You see, what you're stating is what is captured in here. What happens on the market, which you don't control, is where the issue.
So that's the point I'm making.
Dysfunctional.
Yeah, so the point I'm making. No, it's not that. The point I'm making is that generally there have been price reductions, which we all attest to. And as a government official, I'm not about to exaggerate or take for granted the sensibilities of the people of Ghana. The objective fact that we all attend, because we all live in this country, we bought things under the NPP government. We are buying things now. We will buy things forever, long after this government is gone. So we all know it. We all go to the market. At the very least, every day we eat, so we know what it takes to buy that food. After, because of government policy, the management of the economy, which has resulted in this improvement in the exchange rate, improvement in inflation, and mind you, taxes too have been reduced. If today Martin finished and went to an eatery or a restaurant, for instance, before COVID levy was removed, before VAT was restructured, so that the effective rate is now 20%, not 22%, before sanitation levy was removed, and before e-levy was removed, you would have paid higher than you, because now when you go, those things are not on a receipt anymore, so they don't add to your cost. So that one too has gone down. But there are elements, especially in the transportation sector, who have taken advantage of the fact that during the festive season there's a natural upsurge in vehicular traffic because people move into the center of town for trading purposes and all that. So there's a natural upsurge. So they see that natural upsurge and increase in numbers and want to take advantage of the situation to make a quick buck and make more money. That's what they call rent seeking. More money than you actually require, given the objective factors that contribute to pricing.
Right.
So that's what they were doing. And then it became problematic. So government immediately responded. We asked STC to loan us 40. They have these intercity buses, but they are small, not the big ones that they use for intercity transport, but they had these medium-sized ones. So they brought us 40, which were distributed across the heavily populated areas where vehicular movement was become a challenge. Right. Once that happened, it resolved the problem a bit. Then, right after Christmas, STC needed their buses back because they are also a business that needs to be minded by the need to make profit. So they withdrew the buses with the view that the natural upsurge in movement will subside because the U-tide has passed. But it appears that it's been sustained, contrary to conventional wisdom and what we know to be the case in the past. So the decision that has been taken now is that the rent-seeking behavior is being tackled.
How?
Oh, yesterday the vice president met, or I think the day before. Yesterday, yes. Yeah. No, the day before. She met the key transport operators at the transport ministry and put it to them that behavior must end.
The GPRTU and others.
GPRTU, all of them. Because now there is no excuse to increase transport fares. Indeed, transport fares came down when they reduced by 15% because of the corresponding reductions in the factors for pricing. So there's no justification whatsoever beyond rent seeking, which, even though it's not illegal, but it is not an acceptable practice. You understand me? So that has been done. But we do know, and the economists will attest, that it is an overload of supply that drives down prices, because then you give them stiff competition. Indeed, when the SEC buses were released, there were instances where the public began to ignore private transport operators and they began to complain. Indeed, there are video and footage of them complaining that activity nearly collapsed their business. Well, I saw a video of it 2 or 3 days ago.
And that's why
and then we are going to, so if you let me land. So those buses have come back. The SEC buses have come back. Okay. Now Metro Mass Transit, they are also an intercity operator. They are not intercity operators. Okay. Mind you, these are businesses, so they also have their mandate and they need to respond because they have to account to the people of Ghana. Forget about all the mismanagement that went on in the last 8 years and all that. They have some buses that have broken out. There are some of them that are not serviceable. We can't do anything about them except scrapping them. There are others too that you can service quickly.
Yes.
So there are 10 large capacity buses that they have that are being said. That's what the deputy minister spoke to you about. So we expect that by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they should be back on the road to augment what
I see. So it is those ones that could be easily fixed.
They can be easily fixed. They can be naturally, if they were fixed, they would go back to their intercity operations. But essentially, they are loading it to us to address this present crisis.
I see.
Now, but the ultimate solution to the crisis is, first of all, stemming that rent seeking. Because, Prof, whilst I take the point you make about the need for investment in public transport and all that, you see, the way our economy works, the way our system is structured, government cannot fully take over public transportation. Whatever it takes, there must be private participation. And indeed, Alfred, you would agree with me, and colleagues would agree with me here, that over the years, the trottoir system has served our needs. We've not had this challenge. So the question you ask is that why have the trottoirs gone to all of a sudden? Why is it that suddenly they appear to have disappeared from the stations? There is rent-seeking behavior. It is artificial. It's not natural. But public transportation is important, and therefore government is interested in investing in it. As I speak to you, there are plans to bring in hundreds of buses, large capacity buses, to augment the fleet. Once that does happen, the transport operators, the private ones, will feel threatened because they know, and those buses will charge the barest minimum in terms of fare. What makes them break even and then have some margins to be able to keep the operations with. That's what the focus will be. It will not be supernormal, so they will be threatened, and natural competition will drive out the process. But let me tackle also the bits, because hardships come in 2 forms.
Yes,
there is the economic everyday one.
The transport matter. You see, as you are bringing in more buses, have you also put measures in place to address the fundamental issue of lack of maintenance? Because if you're having
of course.
over 1,000
Yes.
mental mass buses,
Yes.
600 and
Of
over
course,
have
and
broken
indeed,
down.
the
And just
Ayalolo
about
buses,
400
the
are on the
Ayalolo
road.
buses, you see, Ayalolo buses, we brought in 250 buses just before, I think in 2016 or thereabout. Yesterday, the vice president, when he met the stakeholders at the transport ministry, had a briefing from the new managing director of the Ayalolo bus, the mass rapid transport system, who said that now there are just about 180 of them. And in fact, as part of the efforts to improve the situation in terms of transportation, the congestion we are seeing now, some additional Ayalolo buses that are operational and were designated to operate in other areas of the country are being recalled to urban centers.
I see.
To ease the traffic. But the point I was making is that Ayalolo was run down, and that it should have been a profitable business, because transportation is a profitable business. People move. It's one of the things that perhaps has inelastic demand. That's why we are seeing the level of congestion, because whether you like it or not, a certain number of people will move every day. So you are guaranteed a certain minimum income if you operate in that sector. All factors being equal. Ceteris paribus, as the economists say. You understand me? So you should not operate a system like Ayalolo if all factors are equal and have the kind of downturn that we witnessed in the last 8 years. So that is being addressed. But the general issue about easing the suffering of the people, because economic hardships come in two forms. There's the economic one, and then there are poor services that impose hardships. So for instance, you live in a rural community, your wife gets pregnant, and there's no health facility nearby. So chances are that she may lose her life because she doesn't have access to that. It imposes a certain hardship on you, even though it is not necessarily economic. Understand me?
Yes,
So yes, you are a student. You live in Adenta, but you attend school at, say, Accra High. So you are a day student. You have to get to school by 8 a.m. lest you get punished. And yet the transportation system is so poor, the road is narrow, that there's such congestion that you will stay in traffic for 2-3 hours. You don't get here. You are a trader. You should be at post by 8 a.m. Otherwise, you're unlikely to make the sales you make every day. And this can affect your income levels and affect your ability to look after your family. But transportation is poor. That is why this government brought in the big push agenda. The whole idea is to expand our infrastructure to accommodate growing population and increasing demand for public services. So demands like for public services like education, health, public transport, housing. And Martin mentioned housing is one of the biggest problems of the average person, because housing prices are crazy compared to more advanced, more sophisticated areas. Our housing prices are untenable. So government is focused on that. We have determined that it is not possible to do everything at the same time. So we need to have a focus so that we complete one and then move to the other. That for us is a more consistent way. It doesn't mean that all the other parts will be ignored, but we will fix a chunk of the problem in one sector and then move to the other. So now we've started with roads. Right. And I think it was Prof who was lamenting the state of the road between Accra and Kumasi, which is our most important arterial road. The others being Accra to Takoradi and then Accra to Aflao. And then the one that continues to Tamale and Paga, that goes into Burkina Faso. Right. Now those roads are important, but for many years we have pumped money into them, yet they have failed to realize the objective, which is to provide rapid access. 2025, the finance minister committed 13.9 billion Ghana cedis, which is at the time was roughly equivalent to $1 billion. Now there are people who say, "Oh, the finance minister is not paying." That is not what has happened. What he has said, and I can confirm to you that he has close to $1 billion of that in an account, ring-fenced. Our Prof is aware of it. Yes. He has said that he won't pay mobilization. But what happens? The contractors take mobilization 30%. Yes. There's a case where a contractor was awarded a contract. He got $30 million as mobilization, and yet not 1 kilometer of road has been constructed. I think it's the Savligi to Wawali Road or something. Somewhere up. Yes, under the NPP, an Indian contractor.
$30 million.
Yes, indeed. I'm sure you read only 2 days ago. It's what we read only 2 days ago that the Auditor General is charging some contractors to the tune of $7.9 million, but they took mobilization for the 1 and they didn't set foot on the site to construct anything. So the finance minister said that as for mobilization, he won't pay.
It's good to change, though.
So you recall the president spoke about this phenomenon of wheelbarrow contractors. There are people who simply do not have the means. So for big push, the finance minister has said that he is not considering wheelbarrow contractors. You need to be a contractor, wet your salt, who has capacity to mobilize resources to do it. But the moment you do it and you raise a certificate, maximum 4 weeks, he will pay. And that is how come. So when you go into the budget, you won't see it draw down because they've not gotten to that point. But anybody
is waiting for people.
He's waiting. He will pay within 4 weeks.
I see. So there's $1 billion
sitting
ring fence.
Indeed.
To pay
indeed. In the coming days, he will also issue a statement regarding the new highway that we want to do to connect Accra, the Greater Accra region and the Ashanti region, Kumasi to be precise.
Okay.
That too, he is working on financing. That is ring fence. That is dedicated to completing that thing.
Okay.
But there was also concern about how to finance. Yes, I'm there was also concern about how to finance these projects. And I think Honorable Appiah raised it. It is true. Government cannot do it alone. So you need to look at the track record of President Mahama, for instance. What has he done before to resolve complex infrastructure challenges at a time when we didn't have a dime to contribute? Look at the Tema Port. You know, people say all manner of things about it. Today, that port was expanded to 4 times its size. Today, it is perhaps the second biggest port in the whole of West and Central Africa. When I checked the last time, this is about 3-4 months ago. Since that port was built, Ghana has earned in excess of $300 million in dividends. But meanwhile, we didn't put in anything. We did a BOT arrangement with a concessionaire, MPS, who had the means because they are involved in the sector. They have done it. And now they get a share, we get a share. We get $300 million for putting in nothing, apart from owning it. And meanwhile,
and the land owners.
Yeah, and of course, but that one is a compensation issue. That one can be. So if they feel hard done by, they certainly can take. I'm sure Martin will be more than happy to represent them in court to demand their fair share. So that one we are not opposed to. That has been done. In fact, Tematun Pakadan, which honorable, it is true that the general idea was first mooted by President Kufuor. But in terms of who got it done, President Mahama, in 2016, he got nearly $400 million from the Indian Exim Bank, and that is what was used. But the first tranche was 400. Later, under Honorable Jogati, I think another $48 million. That is what extended it. Yeah, that's what extended it from Tema. Sorry, Akusomo to Mpakadan. That is what extended it from Akusomo to Mpakadan. But it was not designed. Yes, it was not designed as a passenger rail system. It was designed as the beginning of a multimodal commercial goods carting system, so that when you get there, you use another mode to go over the water leak, and then you go and reconnect again at Bupe and continue, because a port was envisioned for Bupe and all that. Unfortunately, it's been reconfigured because there isn't much traffic in terms of movement, so it is not economically viable to do a passenger system there. I think for Accra to Ho, a road that is expanded, a 3-lane road on either side, should suffice, because it's not too far and the traffic is not as heavy as it is from Accra to Kumasi per se. So that's the original design. That's one too. We got an Exim Bank facility to do it, but the way it is commercial, so it will pay for itself. After Terminal 3, for instance, what happened was that government used to take a certain amount of the IGF of the Ghana Airport Company Limited. But government said that no, we want you to expand Terminal 3, but we don't have a dime to put in it. So what we did was that we had to now keep all your IGF, but ring fence it and use it as collateral to obtain financing. So they went to HSBC and got, I think, around $300 million. About 250 of that went into Terminal 3, and then the rest went into other projects that Ghana Airport Company did. So we've done a modern terminal. We didn't fall on. So that money is not public debt. It is purely financed by the Ghana Airport Company Limited through their own arrangements. So and then even the KJT market. You see, trading. Kumasi is a trading hub, which is an important economic activity. So we did the modern KJT market, around 250 million, 260 million, with I think 8,000 stalls or so. The market women who operate there pay for that service. So in a short order, we'll be able to pay for it so that it doesn't become too much of a burden for the public. So President Mahama has a track record of doing these sort of infrastructure projects. So you can be sure that as for infrastructure, especially in relation to transportation, that will be done. When you check our manifesto, we have plans on what we call orbital routes, basically ring roads that go outside of the city to ease congestion. We have plans on light rail. That is what will move from congested. You don't do heavy rail there because the capital outlay is quite huge. So light rail allows people from Kasua to Accra, Adenta to Accra, Lodowa to Accra, Pokwasi to Accra.
That's actually an answer to a question that a number of our viewers have asked. That look, if you have congestion on our roads, just as Honorable Appiah said, why add more buses?
No,
when that is not
that one, you see, you need to have a multimodal system. So you must give everybody the opportunity to choose what they deem to be affordable.
Let's go back to the sky train. Sky.
I know the train, whether it's by sky, by water, or land, is train. So you do you can't also have just a real system and no routes, because there are also private individuals who have cars. They are not interested in any other system of transport. So you need to create opportunity. What matters is that the infrastructure that you set up should pay for itself, so it doesn't burden the public purse, and then have a situation where the project stall, and then create more cost for you. And then number two, it should serve the purpose of easing transportation and connectivity and contributing overall to a national development. So these are being done and we see signs. But in a nutshell, if you ask me to sum up, the economy has improved. There's evidence that it has translated into the cost of living. Can more be done? Absolutely. More needs to be done. And then we need to tackle the rent-seeking behavior that people are using to exploit others unfairly, because there's no justification.
I see. And this is why I bring in Kofi Bentil.
Yes, I forgot about housing.
No,
housing is
yes, the housing one, the young people.
It is one of my pets. Yes,
it's unlawful.
Yes, otherwise unlawful. But again, the problem. If you allow me just a minute, the problem with that is that there simply isn't enough supply, at least from the public space.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean.
I understand you. What will happen is that, and I'm sure Kofi would agree with me on this one. Enforcement can be done, but because you don't have enough, the owner can decide that now I'm not renting. So where then do the people who rely on them go? So enforcement must go hand in hand with the creation of competition in the public space, or partnering the private sector to make housing more affordable, so that the house owners do not have too much power over their tenants. That for me is the more sustainable outcome, and that is the reason why it's been difficult to implement the rent. It's not that it is acceptable that it's not being implemented.
But if you scaling up more affordable housing, that's what.
Of course, if you check our manifesto, there's something we call social housing.
Yeah,
it is still part of big push, and from next year towards 2028 and beyond, you will see clear attempts. The problem is that we are a bit late in the day in terms of some of these investments, but the capital outlay is also huge, so it takes a bit of time to mobilize to be able to do it. What we should have our government that consistently do these things till we get to a stage where we meet those basic needs.
Okay.
Then we'll be in a position
to find out Mr. Bentil agrees with you
a properly developing country.
On this. Kofi Bentil is the vice president of Imani Africa. He's a private legal practitioner. Just to add that, in good standing, by the way. Mr. Bentil, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Alfred. Good morning, everyone.
I took the collective issues of all our guests and then put it squarely on the lap of the minister in charge of government communications regarding cost of living, taking into consideration the transportation debacle that we experienced within this week, and then also the fact that all of these indicators we have just shown on the board, as agreed and acknowledged, without a doubt, trending towards the right direction, and the focus now is to sustain it. But how should we ensure that it is reflective in the lives of people? Because Abokim makes the point, which Felix Ofosu agrees, that yes, celebrate in modesty. It will take a while for these indicators to translate into the lives of people. But then, how much time should we wait to see this reflect?
Right. So I've heard a lot of things from Felix, and
you came in when he was talking.
Oh yeah. And the Bible says, "May the meditations of my heart." And the words of my mouth be acceptable to you, O God. There is nobody who doesn't want all the dreams he's espousing. But we've had them for 30 years. The Kumasi Road is still there. He just talked about rent and how, he said I should agree with him that rent can be enforced, whatever it is. You cannot enforce rent control. Kwame Nkrumah tried it. You can't enforce a certain pricing on somebody who has bought his cement to build his house. He will just refuse to, rent it. So the only way, whether London or America, every developed city, they have social housing. Go to London, if you build your apartment in London, the city will take some of it and give it out as social housing. So you are right to say the way to deal with it is for the government to get into it. That's the one area where government makes a difference by getting involved, that and transport. And when it comes to transport also, the infrastructure matters more. But let me start with maybe the positive stuff. Look, nobody argues with the fact that when you have the city becoming stronger, everything else falls in place. So don't belabor the point. I don't see anybody arguing with it. All the things that you've talked about. Once the city gets stronger, once the exchange rate fixes itself or it is managed, everything else will fall in place over time. So the issue is sustaining it. The worry that analysts and economists have is how did we get this kind of reduction, and whether it is sustainable, whether it can be stabilized at a considerable time. Okay, and you are in your second year out of 4 years. Apart from President Atta Mills, every government has experienced this kind of economic improvement in their first year. Everyone in the past 30 years. So look, I am happy for it. And I want it sustained. And what Bobkin and all the analysts and other people are saying is that whatever you are doing, make sure that you can continue to do it. When we hear things like gold board losses of 200 million, whatever it is, we worry because we are like, how does this affect all the positive benefits that we are getting here? And then you spoke a lot about transport. And transport is one of those infrastructure things also that affect everything. And there was a lot of poetry there about all the things that you wanted to do. We've heard that poetry before, including sky trains. Okay? May the meditations of our heart and the words of our mouth be acceptable to God, and may they succeed. Listen, last week I wasn't here. And Alfred, I was listening from Cape Coast where I sent you a message.
Yes.
Okay? My wife told me that we needed to leave home before 4 a.m. To make a trip to Cape Coast.
Yeah.
I said, Madam, why? She says, yes, because some people spend 7 hours on that road. People, yeah.
The 3-hour journey.
I've spent
My brother.
8 hours.
Listen to people.
I went to the
central
Listen to what people are saying on this table. I was like, Madam, why?
Yeah.
She says, no, that's the truth. When people got stuck on the Kumasi road for 7 hours, the whole nation was screaming. This is the daily,
Lived experience.
of people on this Cape Coast road. So see, at 4 a.m., we were at the Kaswa toll booth, 4 a.m. Before we got to Budu, it was 1.5 hours between crossing Kaswa toll booth to Buduburam. And I said, hey, madam, you are right. It's terrible. And I'm not talking about sitting down and going slow for 7 hours. It's a mess. It's a hell. All right? The roads are going here and they are huge trucks.
The GPS
Oh my
it doesn't track
goodness.
anything. You get
Look,
confused.
what people are suffering on that road daily is terrible. And you know why I'm stressing on it? It's totally unnecessary. Look, I put it on Facebook. If you want to do 24-hour economy in this country, when we were driving the 4 a.m., all the construction equipment were lying down. Nobody was working. Big trucks were on the road. Okay, why I'm going on is that this is the one thing that government can do today. They can do 24, make those guys work 24 hours. All right? And why would you have those trucks on those narrow? They've made side roads and then people are going there hustling. There is a road from Accra to Winneba. It's called the old Winneba Road. Okay? There's a bypass through Tuba. It works. That road is there. It is simple common sense that if you're going to deal with that major artery, do the bypass to Winneba. Let people who are going beyond there put all those trucks on that road. Felix, I'm begging you. What I'm talking about is not dreams. Today, people are on that road suffering. Okay? We did a small turn and I was surprised to see the ditch beside me. If we had gone a bit, beyond it, would have fallen off. And I'm like, it can't be done.
Dust people are every day, including police officers who are directing traffic. They don't cover their nose.
Bobkin,
you weep for Ghana.
I experienced it. I got down for like 5 minutes. When I got in the car, my nose was blocked. And people are standing there red with sun. So Felix, the dreams are fine. There are things we can do today. Deal with the Cape Coast Road. So see, for me, I don't see the point in debating whether we are having a good economy or not. Look at the exchange rate. It affects everything. I can tell you a lot about transport. I don't know how much time you have, but let me tell you something. President Kufuor did Metromass, and I remember we did an analysis of Metromass. It was about $25 million or so. And one of the things that I remember very vividly we said was that, look, government has no business running transport business because we've never done it well in this country. There was a man called King of Kings. Look, we had Omnibus, it ran down. We had City Express, it ran down. We had so many things. Government puts in millions of dollars, we ran it down. King of Kings in Odoko came and picked up 40-year-old car, space car. And some of the City Express buses that had been sitting down for 10 years, supposedly not serviceable, and fixed them and put them on the road in Odoko. Okay? Private person. So when President Kufuor was doing Metromass, and I'm saying President Kufuor because it's not your government, we said that was a mistake. Why? The $25 million, if you split it into $5 million, and around those things, we're making the point that, look, if you go to STC, they have HR manager, they have chief accountant, they have chief executive or whatever, they wear coat and tie to work and whatever it is, and they run a transport business, and we're not running it well. And after every so many years, the thing runs down, we have to go and put money inside. Just around that time, we got VIP, we got OA. These were transport companies, more or less, run by people, without due respect to them, most of whom have not finished school. They don't have HR managers or whatever. And in a short time, they were doing multiples of what STC was doing without any state input. And we said that, look, if you take that $25 million, split it into $5 million, and give it to some of these people who have proven themselves to be able to run transport business, you have 5 companies. They will pay back the money, you can turn back the money, and then we'll have another 5 companies. They put it in Metromass Transit. In a short time, all the buses were running down. And you know what they were doing? They run down the bus, then they auction it for peppercorn. Sums of money. Yeah. And then they themselves buy it, fix it, and put it on the road. Look, people just take undue advantage of government because we keep putting money in. I could go on with Ayalolo, I could go on with everything, but my point is that let us find transport. As for government, when it comes to transport, yes, do something. But when it comes to transport entrepreneurship, I'm going through 30 years to show that the state often doesn't get it right. Focus on the infrastructure, focus on the roads. Okay, empower the private sector to provide that. Trotro has been the main mode of public transport in this country for 50 years. Okay, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, but what I'm saying is that they find the means to do that. So look, Felix, I agree with you. I'm happy. Nobody fights against progress. Okay, but let us learn the lessons over the years and let's do things differently instead of doing the same things that we've done over the years. And my worry is that the things that stare us in the face, which we should be able to deal with, like making contractors work 24 hours, like making sure the Cape Coast Accra Road doesn't take 7 hours to traverse, like making sure you fix the bypasses from Accra to Winneba so that the trucks can leave the place, like making sure that the stress that people go through on a daily basis is alleviated. Those ones we can do. It is really serious. So I agree with you in parts, and kudos for the work you are doing so far. Take all the credit now, share the one that you have to share, but keep in mind that all this has happened in every first year of every government.
A quick one. Well, it is true that some gains have been made in every first year, because often before the new government comes in, we would probably be under an IMF program. We've done that in 8-year cycles, but I think that this is perhaps the most significant in terms of impact ever. And the reason is that there was a deliberate effort to tackle cost of living. In fact, it is in our manifesto. Many people forget that the Gold Board promise was actually in our 2020 manifesto. I was there when the initial discussions were had. Except that we didn't win. You could also accuse us of perhaps not trumpeting it as much as we should. But it was in our 2020 manifesto. That's where it first emerged. We didn't win, so we couldn't implement it. So we came in with a deliberate policy to ensure that it works. People are talking about losses. Forget about whether they are right or not in terms of the classification of whatever it is. But the point is that, and Prof, you are the economist. You see, the cost of watching your people suffer because of hardships and the damage it does to the lives of people far outweighs 240 million a year. Even if we were to assume for purely argument purposes, I'm not saying that that is what it is, just for purely argument purposes, that indeed we are losing 214 or $300 million a year. $300 million a year is roughly 3 billion cedis, if I'm not mistaken, at current exchange rates. Compare that to the relief that 34 million people will feel if the cost of living is driven down. So that is the first point. The second point about transportation and giving money to private players. Indeed, nothing has stopped private players from taking part in transport. And in fact, Kofi himself has said that for 5 decades, it is private operators who have been the mainstay of our transportation system. So anybody who has the capital or who has what it takes to set up a private support, no problem. No, I don't have a problem. I do not have a problem.
Yeah.
There are several mechanisms. They can tap private capital. They can tap into government's capital offerings. That's fine. But whatever it takes, government must be in there. Indeed, the problem we are discussing today about rent seeking and how these private operators, who we have relied upon over the years, are holding people to ransom because of inadequate public transport options, highlights the point I'm making. That help the private sector. I believe that transportation should be private sector led. I believe that because looking at the figures, it is not practical that government can compete in terms of the numbers, but the system must be government controlled, and the government must have the ability to intervene in the market when necessary. So that
the government's role is regulation.
Absolutely.
Infrastructure.
No, I will go further and argue that direct participation in this instance. You see,
That's the
true.
point. Government should support the private
I agree
sector,
with all your
regulate
points,
and
but the
provide
point I'm making is that beyond regulation and support, direct participation is necessary. And the problem we are discussing now highlights it. We relied on trotros. We take it for granted that you wake up and go to the station and a trotro will be there to take you wherever, even if there's some inconvenience. Suddenly, something has changed. They won't even go to the station. They loiter about, hike their prices. They decide that instead of accredited routes, they will do it in short order.
I agree with you, but there's a little difference. See.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll
Government
round up.
participating in public transport, everywhere where it's done well, you deal with the light rails and the kind
Absolutely.
of things.
That is a given.
Government is entering areas like, STC is doing trotro. Okay, Metro Mass Transit is doing intercity. Those are the things.
You see,
so let's just
I agree. But you see, the
we've
point is
done
that
for 30 years, it never worked.
I agree. But
Focus on the light.
I agree. But
why don't we have rail from Achimota?
Unacceptable.
From Kaswa.
Unacceptable.
From
That would take time. Minimum, it will take you 3 to 4 years.
Focus on that.
Great. But within that period that you lay that infrastructure and build the system,
Felix,
you can't leave people like that.
Hold on.
Of course. But honorable, I have demonstrated to you that some of the, perhaps if I'm not mistaken, perhaps if I'm not mistaken, the Temaport and perhaps Etuabo gas plants are the 2 single largest infrastructure projects undertaken in the last 40 years. Yes. The Etuabo project, because we had some financing from China, it helped out. So that was public sector led. Even though we had to use oil as a base to attract that finance, which is fine. And it will pay for itself if it is managed well. There's no problem with it.
Okay.
But the Temaport was private capital. And we've made in excess of $300 million in dividends.
It is possible.
So it is possible. We've actually done it. We've actually done it. So as for whether it is possible, it has been proven beyond doubt. We've done it. But I'm saying that in addition to regulation and support to the private sector, active participation in the sector is necessary so that we don't have the situation we are having now. Now, what is happening now is equivalent to Kalabuli in the past, which is a very notorious activity that transpired in the 70s and 80s. You understand me? And then finally, on the inconvenience that comes with road construction, that one is almost inevitable. I agree that alternative arrangements should be made. But some inconvenience will come with the construction. Also, sometimes because of the way that it is financed,
it's not necessary.
Because of the way that it is financed, it takes too long. It takes too long.
Not necessary.
It takes too long. So it creates too much inconvenience. And I'm an MP in Abrasibu, so I go on that road very often. And I face that all the time. You have to wake up at dawn.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you.
But the 24-hour concept in road construction actually is a prerequisite for big push.
So why have we left them to do what they want?
I'm sure that can be addressed. But the 24-hour working time for road construction is a prerequisite.
Thank you.
Road minister has
Thank you. I want to hear one person at a time. Gentlemen, please.
In fact, it is a requirement.
Hold on.
Big push contracts, yes. It's a requirement, yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, the Konongo,
One minute.
just quickly.
I put in an urgent question to the Minister of Roads and Highways at the time that I was a member of Parliament. And this was a complaint on a bridge leading into Konongo. Very dangerous.
Okay,
Thank you. It is almost gone. So the minister came to see it and decided that we should do a bypass through Bompata so that they would construct the Konongo Road.
Right.
That bridge, that particular bridge. And that particular bridge is used every day by heavy trucks. We will wake up one day to hear bad news.
Well,
and we have done the bypass, which I enjoy and use. But the main complaint of the bridge into Korongo is still hanging.
Oh, okay.
All right.
And
so
if you go there and see it,
I'll take note of it.
it is only just hanging.
I'll draw the minister's attention
Right
immediately. Yeah.
And thank you very much for this. Professor Bobkin, final word on this particular issue, because then there's been some proposals as to what the way forward should look like. Finally, in a minute on this.
Yeah, thank you
and
very much.
Let me just also indicate that the Ghana's ambassador to the United States, Victor Emmanuel Smith, is joining us in the next 3 minutes. 3 minutes. He's already connected with us, so stay with us. We'll get into the next issue. Yes, Prof.
Yes, I mean, I think that if you look at the approach the government has adopted from last year, I think it's quite consistent when we talk about transformation. There's a starting point. And I also agree that given the enormity of the challenges that Ghanaians are going through, we need to act at scale. And then we also need to be measured how we celebrate certain progress, because there's real suffering. It's not just on the Accra Cape Coast. If you are going from Accra to Adan, I mean,
it's even worse there than Cape Coast.
Yes,
the other one. Yes.
It's you know, and then also let me say that yes, we've seen progress. As I said, some level of patience is needed for all of this to begin to manifest at the micro and the household level. But let me also say that you know, what we have seen last year, we have tended to explain positive inflation as though it's negative inflation. Let's bear in mind that inflation is positive. December last year, December 2024, compared to December 2025, we are saying that prices on the average have gone up by 5.4%. That is positive inflation. Okay, so we haven't seen broadly base drifts that much. So sometimes the way we interpret the positive inflation is as though there's a sustained prices falling, as though we are in a negative inflation or deflation or something. So let's just, otherwise, the ordinary people, when they go to the market and they don't see that progressive sustained price reduction, then they will begin to ask, why is this not reflecting and all that? Inflation is still positive.
Right.
So on the average prices, the rate at which prices are going up have come down drastically. And I think that is commendable, that we need to appreciate that. Then also, the other bit we also need to see that if you see that national average of 5.4%, and you look at the regional difference, you can see differences exist. Some regions are doing more than 10%. Even some of our traditional food basket regions, inflation on the average is more than 10%. Okay. Eastern region and some other places, of course, some other places, if you look at the regional distribution, are actually experiencing negative inflation. Is there not? But broadly, so, and then also for majority of Ghanaians who have nothing, are unemployed and all of that, they are not able to benefit optimally from these lower prices, because if you're able to buy, if you're able to consume, then your savings goes up and all of that. Okay. So there are challenges. Finally, the bit that I want to say is that, yes, given the huge infrastructure deficit and all of that, government should actively look at the public-private partnership in connecting some of the major cities so that we're able to act at scale. If we say we want to finish Accra Kumasi before the others, you know, it's quite this thing. Then at the end of the day, if you also look at the data clearly, you will see that between 2024, 2025, in terms of job-rich growth, we have not made much progress.
Thank you.
So we've seen growth, but it's not job-rich.
Right.
And that growth is also very much reliant on ICT service sector and wholesale and retail. So we need to look at all of that. Then, Honorable, since you are here, the other bit we need to look at is, if you see the uptick in terms of imports and the rise of malls and all of that, you know, when you see this, they are actually the avenue for bringing, otherwise, by the time we are done with 24-hour economy, empowering Ghanaians to produce the market, so we need to have a good balance and all of that. So I think, as I've said always, government has done well. There's more that can be done, but let's be moderate in how we celebrate it, because managing the economy is not 100 meters.
All right.
It's a long haul. Yeah.
Professor Godfrey Boppin, thank you. And giving the last word on this matter, this is the key point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com, on the Voice of London Radio.
Yes, so that is it. Enti Debia Kofi Bentil Ayobia MPP for Esumano Ewo TV3. Yen na say media general MPP rep enko due to the ACA omuchirimu a omoye false publication meanwhile no na nye sa netie eno na nso kra ma the third vice chairman Edman MPP chairman Masaudu aka chairman Bugabuga eka MPP o microphone bo ho mre bi atwam obra no moye press release and as a press conference. Since that no media general MPP boycott it. But so-called professors, so-called doctors, so-called activists binum kotena what say Kofi Bentil a omo nkasaye omo niye how they respond to issues, stated clearly. Say these are the MPP foot soldiers in professionalism, in professor title, in doctrine title, in activist title. Yes. So we share nsema omoka anyhow wa Felix Ofosu Kwaakye ato no boase church niam, especially transport union the CA Adano Kumasi any niam bebrai course so ewi achi na nkofo alusu hope na. You see, a kind clear. So my konkoro Ghana, this country we are living in now, it is moving into a right direction. It is moving into a right direction. Send say hunti ene yetimi ka se ene Ghana for correct mi ka se say case kan mo etete so dodo petrol bo no mo tete so dodo ba mo ben kan kore na no me firi baby ko baby a me fa bus. In fact na case kan bus no omunyanti so and it is abysmal. I will say omu ehwe na transport union no omu timiti omu tete bus ne so e ba no long journey die na because ohwe price aya na omu charge a highly impossible, so omu timi charge for that distance. Do even when the dollar is depreciating and the cedi is appreciating, what you say nti e so no omu hwe ho na woka bibi e de fa ho. But on the most serious note, Kofi Bentil Yobia, he has never been truthful to himself. Debiano Oba shows what Nikasa niye how he respond to issues, stated clearly. So no MPP ni, and he adia in this for he will never support it, and he will always criticize. He will always speak bad about it. I don't know. I almost but then fuel price any money be a decreasing. These people buy fuels than any other people because they be a day and they saying omo TV station, they're jumping from one TV station to another TV station. They're jumping from one radio station to another radio station. And these are the people and you can't buy no ni power a buy no and you papa de go akwan na ma enema ekoswa. These are the people anka I was say omo e can the more they have to speak and say good thing about it. But these are the people they use their platforms to tarnish the image of the Abai. One MPP no better move for 8 years. What did the MPP did? So another weekend, another Saturday, Mesro, Midubesi, oba like you. I say January a quantum and 17 for. Hey, January a quantum. Yankopon boy. Na ye na de ye hwehwe ne sentiment can because January a quantum papa. January a quantum. And say I feel so sim no. Ase nyan shedanti asem bia ebema ye wahu. Asa afiwe die ye bompa say Yankopon boy na ntimi koye nim because afiwe no it seems say nneɛma ɛrekɔ so kakra and with time no all things shall be what possible, all things will be okay. Nti maame mfa wo nsi kyerɛ w'adwene wɔ comment section mu. Bye bye.